Good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock on Tuesday, October 26th. And so I will call the meeting to order. And the first item is to ask for a roll call from our clerk, if we can, please.
Councillor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Donaldson.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Present.
Councillor McKechnie.
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Wood Roberts.
Present. Oh, geez, sorry.
And Mayor Roberts.
Yes, present.
Okay.
That's the second time I did that. I apologize. My mind is elsewhere. It's ahead of the game and what I was going to say. So we are all accounted for. Thank you. I just want to, I'm having a little eye issue on the one side, so I might sometimes just cover my eye. It's all good. And also Councillor McKechnie has asked for leave to turn his camera off when he needs to, so he can stretch a knee that's been fixed. And so do that anytime you need to, Councillor McKechnie. So with that said, we're going to open the meeting with a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that Dysart et al. Is located in the Treaty 20 Michi-Sagig territory and in the traditional territory of the Michi-Sagig and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beau Soleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. These ancestral homelands are more than a place where the Anishinaabe hunted, fished, gathered, and grew their food long before the settlers' arrival. Indigenous peoples cared for these lands and waters and have welcomed us as their guest. We pay them respect by ensuring we continue to recognize their ongoing connection to the area and by supporting the health and integrity of the lands and community for generations to come. And we'll be reading that at every meeting to remind us. Thank you. So the first item would be then an adoption of the agenda. So if I could look for a mover and a seconder. It's Councillor Wood Roberts and Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Dysart et al. Held on October 26, 2021 be approved as presented. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Next, I'll ask to see if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. And seeing none, we will move into an adoption of the minutes from the regular council meeting of September 28, 2021. Mover, Councillor Smith, and seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that council approves the minutes of the September 28, 2021 regular council meeting as circulated. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Next, we have mayor and deputy mayor update. I don't have very much to report. The only thing to note is that at County Council tomorrow, we are receiving the draft bylaw from the Hutchinson Environmental. It's a very lengthy document, and all of the correspondence is also included in that. It was difficult for some of the county councillors to download over the weekend. There was a glitch. So I'm hoping at tomorrow's meeting that we will not be making any detailed decisions tomorrow. Hopefully we can set aside a future date and time where we can discuss that in more detail. But nonetheless, I urge all the Dysart councillors and any public listening, if they want to be involved, is to read that report. It's now on the public agenda. So that's all I have for today. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, do you have anything you want to share?
Not a lot either, Madam Mayor, other than I've been reading lots and catching up on things I've missed over the course of the last few months. Getting back in the swing of things of attending meetings, and I'm really honored to be at the kickoff of the Poppy campaign here on Friday morning, and looking forward to that. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for asking me to step in and in your place for that. And that's about it. Looking forward to today's meetings as well as tomorrow's county council. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that. So we do have 3 delegations, so that'll keep us busy for a little bit in the morning. So the first delegation is from Corey McKay, who is the County Climate Change Coordinator, and we'll bring her into the meeting. Deputy Mayor Kennedy and I have seen this report at the county table, but part of Corey's mandate is to come to the local municipalities and share this report. Corey, are you doing a share screen?
No, I won't be just speaking.
Okay, just a verbal report. Well, welcome to Dysart Council, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today I will be providing an update on the development of a community climate action plan, similar to the update I provided to County Council last week, I believe. The first milestone under the Partners for Climate Protection program involves calculating greenhouse gas emissions within the boundary of the community, as well as outlining future climate projections under a business as usual scenario. This information will help us to prioritize actions that have the greatest impact on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, as well as adapting to a changing climate. Standard protocols were followed to measure emissions from our buildings, both residential as well as commercial, industrial, and institutional, as well as transportation and solid waste. Other categories such as off-road transportation and agriculture were included as well. In 2019, the community in the county emitted close to 300,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent and consumed almost 5 million gigajoules of energy at an expenditure of about $161 million. This is equivalent to about 7.6 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per person at an expenditure of just over $4,000 annually. The main sources of emissions in the community were found to be on-road transportation at 67%, residential buildings at 24%, industrial, commercial, and institutional buildings at 6%, and off-road transportation at 3%. Emissions from both agriculture and waste account for less than 1% of community emissions currently. Looking into 2030, emissions from buildings are expected to increase by about 14% due to a growing population as well as employment in the county. Emissions from transportation, however, are expected to decrease by about 6% due to increases in fuel economy as well as increased uptake of electric vehicles, which are expected to outweigh the increased number of vehicles that are on the road. Overall, community emissions are projected to remain approximately the same in 2030 as in 2019 in the absence of any policy or program changes. We are already seeing and will continue to see warmer, wetter, and wilder weather in the county. If the world continues on the same emission pathway that we're currently on, climate models show that we may experience a 4.4 degree rise in the average annual temperature towards the end of the century, with the county seeing an increased number of days above 30 degrees and fewer, if any, days below minus 30 degrees. Total annual precipitation is expected to increase by 9%, focused in more intense precipitation events. Water levels in the county's lakes and rivers will experience increased variabilities and extremes, and the county will also experience more frequent and intense storms, including ice storms, snowstorms, and thunderstorms. Looking ahead to developing a plan and setting targets, the first step is to develop an advisory group to guide plan development. So key external stakeholders include representatives from the business community, the energy sector, developers and builders, educational institutions, community organizations, conservation authorities, and watersheds, as well as public health. This group would also include a representative from each local municipality, which may be a member of the current or former Environment Committee. It is anticipated that applications for this group would open in about mid-November. So I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Thank you, Corey, for that. Also a representative from Haliburton County, one from County Council, if you didn't already say that. So we have not decided at the county which person. We were asked to think upon that when you did the presentation a couple of weeks ago. And we can discuss sort of who wants to put their name forward for the Dysart local council or representation. So is there any questions for Corey at this time? Councillor Smith, go ahead.
Just to be clear, is Corey going to go on through her other reports, or are these questions on any of her reports right now?
Corey, you're going to continue?
Nope. So that was it, just to summarize the reports that are there.
Okay.
Yes, I think the reports were there for us to read, but the main thing is that, excuse me, this is the next step, is to form this committee. And so the background information was there, but not for her to necessarily go through. However, that said, if you have a question, go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you. Corey, I was curious, well, I guess surprised first and then curious about waste. As you mentioned, less than 1%. And I know you were using 2019 as a base where only Kinesis was had its waste hauled away. Obviously, since then, we're hauling waste out of Halliburton and also West Guilford to a great extent. And so those changes are likely to increase that 1% pretty significantly.
Yes. So we've seen the corporate inventory, which Dysart's corporate inventory currently has all landfill emissions accounted for in there, since it was a baseline of 2018. And then this is a baseline of 2019. So as you mentioned, Kinesis is reflected in there. And in the report, there's the future climate projections piece. And for waste, that accounts for more waste being transferred outside of the community. And so those emissions growing within the community inventory. And then increased vehicle traffic would be reflected in transportation emissions through increased vehicle counts.
Okay. So given that expected transition in terms of a change in the measurements, your community action plan was focused on 4 areas: buildings, energy, transportation, and natural assets. I was wondering about your thought in terms of making waste one of those focus areas. It's kind of something that there's a lot of people in our community that are very concerned, particularly about our organic waste, but it's also something, waste in general, is something that it's harder for us as a municipal government to control than it is for citizens in terms of modifying their behavior to potentially reduce the amount of waste that we have to deal with and haul away and so forth. And so given that opportunity for community engagement, would it make sense to make waste a greater area of focus?
So yeah, so our corporate action plans contain waste actions in them, as well as some local municipalities are moving forward with integrated waste management strategies, which then also account for public input on that. So to have it in 3 plans, it'd be important that they all align together. So what I was thinking was seeing where integrated waste management strategies go, and then in the next iteration of the community climate action plan, then that can be reflected in there as well and updated and added to.
Okay, so you see it coming in the iteration. Thank you. Might I ask one final question, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, sure. Okay, quickly. Yeah.
I don't know if you looked at our agenda, Corey, or if you're familiar with it. We have an organization following you who's encouraging us to sponsor, if you like, partially fund the acquisition of devices that are designed to help consumers dispose of organic waste. Do you have a professional opinion on the effectiveness of that solution?
I can speak to that. Algonquin Highlands has piloted the food cycler program, so I don't know if they'll provide an update on that, but we should see the success of their program soon and some metrics. So I think that should be shared with all councils, but I mean, I think it's a great initiative.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Councillor Smith. So at this point, we'll just, I need a resolution to receive the report, and then after, if any, okay, I'll just finish. Yeah, just 1 second. Then if any councillor wishes to be on this, if they could reach out to myself and let me know. Yes, yeah, I see you, Councillor McKechnie. I just wanted to finish what I was saying there. So if any councillor wants to be on the committee, they can let me know after, and we can put that on the next agenda. Okay, Councillor McKechnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to come across here really negative towards Corey. I think it's a fantastic report, and you work very hard and you're very good at your job, Corey. But these are just my personal views, and I have a lot of friends that feel the same way. And with being laid up this last week, I've watched a lot of different news channels, and a few of them have come up with, you're talking about emissions in the air. China is the biggest culprit, more than probably anybody in the world. And I'd love to see Corey's committee or form a committee to go to our government and put pressure, not just Canada. Canada can't do it, of course. Probably the states can't do it alone, but everybody to get China on board here. And the other thing is, we're talking about waste and garbage. I mean, there's not even a mention of incinerating garbage. In 2030, you're going to be trucking electric trucks down to Chatham, Ontario, dropping off garbage? I don't think so. And I'd love to see the committee at least present maybe my views, because I don't understand why we're not going, not even thinking about going in that direction to get rid of our waste. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McKechnie. Just so that we can move on, I don't think Corey's going to be able to answer those questions. So there's
No, she doesn't have to.
She doesn't. Yeah, it's just out there for your thoughts, and we do know that we are trying to follow up with what Peterborough's doing as well for organic waste and what other municipalities are doing. So I will just ask for mover and a seconder, if I could, to receive this report. Okay, Councillor Smith and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the report on the Community Climate Action Plan development be received for information by Dysart Council. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. We're a little bit early. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. We're a bit early for our next delegation, and I do, because the time was posted, I'm going to stick to that time because there might be people from the public watching that. And so what I thought we could do is go through quickly the reports and recommendations from local agencies and boards, if that's okay to jump ahead. So we do have Harcourt Community Hall Board. Councillor Donaldson, is there anything to report there?
We have a meeting scheduled for next week because there's going to be some changes made according to the secretary, so I can report on something next time.
Okay, thank you. I hope their pie sale went well. And if you have any questions or concerns before that meeting, if you want to talk about capacity limits and all that stuff, you can reach out to Mike Isles or Andrea Mueller on that.
Right. Yeah, they sold, I think it was way more than 100 pies.
Oh, good for them. Good for, I make pie every once in a blue moon. It's a lot of work, so good for them. Thank you for that. How about West Guildford Hall Board? Anything happening there?
Yep, thank you, Madam Mayor. The West Guildford Recreation Center board met last evening, and as we did in September, and so things are active. We've had a couple of events small events at the center, and have starting next week, the indoor pickleball will be restarting. We've got a number of bookings, about 17 hours per week booked now through the winter, and more people coming forward with questions and interests. So that's encouraging. We've had some other groups that haven't been in the center previously. There's a singing group looking to do the rehearsals or practices at the center, and Andrea Mueller is providing some advice regarding numbers. So that's underway. There's interest in kind of restarting the craft sale, and actually tonight. Today's Tuesday. We've got the euchre starting back up tonight. So at 7 o'clock every Tuesday night, euchre restarting. And so things are underway, and it's great to see. We had a larger group at the meeting last night. It's great to see that increased participation and restarting the usage of the facility.
Yeah, it sure is. Thank you. And for both facilities, they're beautiful facilities, and maybe things like the snow shuffle, they can actually start. Those things take months in advance. They can actually start planning ahead and being able to go forward with things that had to get canceled. So thank you for that report. And then the next we have a Rails End Gallery. There is a report there.
Yeah, Lori Jones submitted a report, and there's some good stuff in there. They were able to confirm they had a Trillium grant of 50,000, which helps offset the lack of fundraising they've been able to do over the last year and a half. They haven't been able to do the events, so this offsets some of the operating costs, which is good. We had our AGM in late September. Dagmar Bochier, anyways, is the new chair. She's replacing Margaret Easby, who's been in the chair for the last number of years, and I guess has earned a chance to step down. So that's going forward, and there's just a little bit of an outline on some of the programming to kind of keep over the next little while to keep some of the artistic community engaged and inspired. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And that was just great news for that grant that they received. Really will help them, I'm sure. So I do have I have a motion here on the floor to receive the Rails End Gallery report. If I could get a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Clark and Councillor Smith. Be it resolved, the council acknowledges receipt of the October 2021 Rails End Gallery Arts Center report. All in favor? Okay, carried, thanks. Anything from the Haliburton BIA?
We had a meeting last month at McKeck's. The fall decorations look very good, and we really appreciate all the people that worked hard to do that. Brad Park ordered a lot of the supplies, and David Zostra did a lot of the managing and assisting with the actual physical labor. The banners should be coming down right after Remembrance Day, and the snowflakes going up. So it would be nice to make sure the snowflakes are checked before they go up for their functionality, so that it saves labor. Ladies shopping night is, they're planning that to follow COVID protocols. It's always been quite successful in town. Santa Claus parade is, as far as I know, going to go ahead with COVID protocols in place. Jim Frost does an amazing amount of work on this, and the Lions Club really provide a positive community service with this. And it is actually planned for, I'm just looking for the date, I think around November 21st. And the tree will go up at the village farm then as well. That is about it, I believe. I'll forward them in.
Okay, thank you for that. That's great news. Anything? No, nothing from Harvest Haliburton. I know you haven't been meeting.
We're scheduling a meeting in November, so I should be able to have a report for December.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Source protection planning.
I think March, April is the next meeting.
Okay, thank you on that one. Upper Trent Water Management.
No meeting there, no.
Okay, and no report from the Haliburton Village Bioenergy. So that concludes that section, which is great, and we're right back on track timing wise to bring in our second delegation.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a question of Councillor Wood Roberts? On the
Oh,
Santa
of course
Claus,
you can. I'm sorry, I can't see half the time. So yeah.
the Santa Claus parade. I was looking at their website, trying to figure out the date of it, and it says the Friday after the Toronto Santa Claus parade, but there is no Toronto Santa Claus parade this year.
That's just historically when it has been held. I do believe the permit was submitted to the municipality. The parade is scheduled to take place November 26th.
26th. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's always on a Friday night. So, okay, that's clarified. So now we'll bring in our delegation if we can. Christina Zardo. Alex Heyman's not able to join us today, so we're going to bring in Christina from Manager of the Municipal Solutions. Good morning.
Good morning.
And how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council and staff for having me today.
Great. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you, Christina, to do your presentation, and we'll see if there's questions. I do know that our John Watson is listening and viewing online, so we can, if we have any questions that we need from him as well, we might be able to ask him. So go ahead.
Excellent. Could you just confirm that you're able to see my presentation up on the screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. So thanks for having me this morning. My name is Christina Zardo. I'm here on behalf of Food Cycle Science and our municipal team to do a presentation of about 10 minutes this morning with a few questions at the end for any questions. So a little bit about us. Food Cycle Science, we're a local Canadian company. We're based out of Ottawa, and we are 100% focused on providing food waste diversion solutions. We use our innovative technology called the Food Cycler, which is an in-home food recycler. We sell it direct to consumers through partners like Vitamix and Breville, but we also provide solutions to municipalities through our municipal solutions team. We help mainly small, rural, remote communities keep food waste out of their landfills. We're currently working with 17 Canadian municipalities across 5 provinces and territories. And you may have heard of us from the projects we're running in some nearby municipalities such as Algonquin Highlands, Bancroft, and Trent Lakes. Now, the problem with the food waste, of course, is that it is avoidable. It accounts for a very large portion of our household waste, often a majority, and it's made up of mostly liquid, which is heavy and freezes in the winter. On top of that, food waste in landfills is responsible for generating harmful greenhouse gases. So all of these factors make it so that food waste is a problem that has a strong municipal impact. And one of those impacts is that since it makes up such a large portion of our waste stream, it causes our landfills to fill up quickly. And landfill extension and post-closure monitoring is a major cost to municipalities. The environmental impact is that having food waste in the landfill produces methane gas, which is many times more harmful than CO2. And to put that into perspective, taking 1 ton of food waste out of the waste stream is equivalent to taking 1 car off the road for an entire year. And in our communities, putting food waste into the garbage causes odors, which is unpleasant for us, of course, but it is very interesting for animals like bears and raccoons that are attracted to our properties when waste is left out. Removing food waste from the garbage eliminates these issues. It reduces volume, and that can save the municipality on waste management costs, save trips to the landfill, and keep those pesky critters away. So we often get asked, haven't we solved this food waste problem already? There are green bins. These are common in big cities that have high population density and the right infrastructure. This isn't a solution for everyone, of course. And many people in your community might backyard compost, which we think is a wonderful solution. Unfortunately, it's not for everyone either. It does still have the issue of attracting wildlife, and it's a seasonal and labor intensive, which might not be for everyone. And then finally, the easiest solution is to continue to landfill your organics, but the long-term impacts are costly and harmful to the environment. So at Food Cycler, we've proposed a different way of dealing with our food waste that focuses on making it easy to deal with and with a great user experience. Essentially, we've built a small kitchen appliance about the size of a bread machine. You put your food scraps in, and that can include meat, poultry, fish, even some bones. You push a button, and in a matter of hours, you have a nutrient-rich soil amendment that comes out. Each cycle takes between 4 to 8 hours to complete and uses less than 1 kilowatt hour of power. The byproduct is a soil amendment that you can use in gardening or landscaping applications. It can be used by local farmers, and it can even be pelletized to be used as an alternative source of home heating. The machine can run anywhere with a plug, and some people put it in their kitchen, on their counter, in the basement, or perhaps a heated garage. From an environmental standpoint, the Food Cycler compares to backyard and central composting without taking into account transportation emissions. It represents an approximate reduction of greenhouse gas impact by 95% versus sending food waste to landfill. Each unit is estimated to divert at least 2 tons of food over its lifetime and avoid 2.6 tons of carbon monoxide equivalent. Again, that doesn't factor in transportation emissions. From an economic standpoint, the solution offers a return on investment by reducing waste management and disposal costs. You have less disposal, lower operating costs, and you can achieve higher diversion without implementing these costly curbside green bin programs. Now, one thing that we've learned from working with our municipal partners is that residents are very interested in being part of the solution. They want to try new things, they want options, and they want their government to bring those things to their community. With the food cycler, you get to bring something innovative and tangible to your residents. They don't need to live in a big city to have a food waste diversion program. We think it should be available to all Canadians, no matter where you live. And on top of this social pressure is the impact of the regulations that are coming to us here in Ontario, with a number of diversion targets we'll be looking to achieve. So with the food cycler, we're reducing waste at the source and focusing on that low-hanging fruit, as I like to call it, because since food waste accounts for such a large portion of the waste stream, it's the single most impactful strategy to achieving these diversion targets. I mentioned earlier that we're working with several municipalities across Canada. One example is the city of Nelson in BC, who ran a pilot of 250 households. The results were overwhelmingly positive. We received an average rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars, and we achieved a significant diversion of waste over that time that continues to this day. They have actually voted to put a food cycler in every home in their city of 10,000 people following these pilots. Now, we also have one running in Algonquin Highlands currently that will be wrapping up in the next few weeks. And the results will be made available to you for some excellent localized results. And that includes tons of waste diverted, tons of CO2e avoided, and overall viability of the program in your area. So earlier this year, Food Cycler was selected as a semi-finalist in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge. This is a 3-part initiative from the Government of Canada to reduce our country's food waste. As a semi-finalist, we were given a prize of $100,000 and tasked with finding Canadian municipalities as implementation partners. We are using this funding to invest directly into pilot programs at a heavily subsidized price. And we will be moving into the next stages of the challenge, and if successful, will come with more funding, which will be further used to support programs for Canadians. A pilot program will typically run about 12 weeks. It works like this. So residents will purchase a food cycler at a subsidized rate from their municipality. They'll use the unit, tracking the number of cycles that they run per week. At the end, the residents get to keep their food cycler, and we ask them to complete a brief survey so that we can evaluate the program's success. So we have some funded pilot programs available, and here are some pilot size recommendations. For a municipality of your size, we would recommend a pilot program of at least 100 households. They work on a subsidy model where Food Cycle Science provides a discount, and we add in some federal investment from the Impact Canada funding to get the price of the unit reduced by 50%. So from 500 retail price to 250. We then ask the municipality to subsidize the cost of $100 per unit so that residents only end up paying $150 for a machine that retails at $500. And I'll remind you that they get to keep the food cycler at the end of the pilot. But these are also just recommendations based on our experience. We can, of course, explore different sizes that are tailored to you and meet your budget. But to give you a bit of insight, in Algonquin Highlands, which has a population of about 25 people plus seasonal residents, they opted for a 100-unit pilot and have full registration. Also in the city of Kenora, which has about 15,000 people, we did a 250-unit pilot, and they were fully subscribed within 6 days of opening registration. So we would be happy to welcome your municipality as a partner in this food waste challenge. We believe your community would benefit from this program. What we ask today is that you receive our presentation and indicate whether there's interest in a partnership under this program. We would be happy to work with staff on a report and recommendation to be brought back for consideration. The only caveat I'll mention is that the first stage of Impact Canada wraps up on January 10th of 2022. So in order to adhere to their timelines, we'll be looking for a decision to participate prior to the end of the calendar year for a pilot project that will roll out early next year. So thank you so much for allowing me to present this to you today, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you, Christina. That was great. And you answered a few questions that I had already, actually, that were more and not included in your slide deck. So I appreciate that very much. Like I said, John Watson is listening. And so currently, just to let councillors know, the resolution is just to receive, but I do think we would want some more information. And so perhaps we could ask John to do a report and come back to Committee of the Whole in November, would be my recommendation. So for now, I'm going to open it up to the floor to councillors to ask questions. And first we have Councillor Wood-Roberts.
Good morning. Thank you for that presentation. Do these units come in a size that would be used in like a commercial use, like restaurants and stuff? Because I think there's a significant amount of food waste that comes from those sorts of establishments, that and grocery stores kind of deal.
Yeah, so we do. So we offer both the residential unit, which is the one that I've presented today for kind of residential waste, but we do have commercial solutions with larger units as well.
But not through the not through this pilot program. This is for household residential, but there are units like that out there, right?
Yes, that's correct. So this particular program is for residential using the smaller units, but we do have the commercial units available outside of this program for applications like grocery stores, high food waste generators.
Excellent. Further questions? Councillor Clark, go ahead.
Yeah, I see the bit of the challenge here, or competitive part is with our digesters. The digesters do pretty much the same thing you're talking about. There's a cap top goes on them so they don't attract animals and there is no smell, and then they'll hold quite a bit of kitchen waste. But we're charging, I think it's around $80. I think is what our composters are, and anybody who in the community who's interested pays $80 and you install it in your backyard, and it doesn't take up a whole bunch of space. So I think part of what we've got to take a look at is should we be looking at a bit of a blend of like a $500 unit is pretty expensive for a small community like us and not big budget. So I think we're going to have to count on John to take a look and see what he comes back with, and also the commercial overlay. Christina, the larger units you're talking about, is there a range of price for the bigger ones that, as Councillor Wood-Roberts has suggested, for restaurants through to grocery stores? What kind of price range are on those bigger units?
Yeah, thank you for your comments and questions, Councillor. The commercial units range in size from 80 liters all the way up to 1,500 liters of capacity. And they range in price from $15,000 to $150,000. So there's a large range, and it's built tailor-made to the business that would be requiring it. And we would typically just work directly with that kind of business to business in that situation. And if I may just make a comment about the digesters, we think these are fantastic solutions. They're wonderful for the environment and they do work for a lot of people. With our solution, we're not looking to replace that type of composting. We're more looking to bridge the gap between those who are using it and those who are not doing anything. So it doesn't need to be a widespread, 100% solution, but it does work for a good portion of residents that aren't doing anything otherwise.
I think that's a good point, Christina, and Councillor Clark. I thought about that too, but I'll admit I'm guilty. I kept thinking I was going to get a digester and I didn't. This as an individual would appeal to me more. The compact size of it, that we don't have an ideal location to even put a digester that isn't sort of in the way of something else in our backyard. And so the other night I cooked a family dinner with a whole ton of potato peelings and squash innards and carrot peelings. And I'm embarrassed to say I put them in the garbage. I would love to be putting them in one of these units. Now, that said, someone can still go out and buy. It looks like there's Revel and Vitamix makes them. If someone wants to spend $500, maybe I better investigate that if I don't qualify for the other program. And how soon would the Algonquin Highlands report and the results of that pilot effectiveness be available?
Yeah, so their pilot is wrapping up in the next couple weeks, and then surveys will be administered. So I would like to say sometime within the next 4 to 6 weeks, they'll be available.
Councillor Smith and then Councillor McKechnie.
Yep, thank you, Madam Mayor. And thanks, Christina. It's certainly an interesting possibility. A question for you first. Where do you sell these units at $500 a pop?
They're sold exclusively in North America through Vitamix. So it's our food cycler product that we manufacture, and Vitamix is our distributor exclusively in North America. So you can get it on Vitamix.com or on Amazon through Vitamix.
All right, so you can't go to local retailers or even I'll call regional places like Costco or whatever.
We are part of the Costco Roadshow across Canada through Vitamix, but that's just special occasions throughout the year. So it's not available in stock throughout the year at Costco or any other retailer.
And through you, Madam Mayor, maybe if John Watson's listening, although the formal conclusion of the Algonquin Highlands pilot and their reporting may not be completed for the November Committee of the Whole, I imagine there's somebody up there in Algonquin Highlands that John could speak with, a colleague or peer that could give him, an inside perspective on how things have been turning out in Algonquin Highlands and make that part of his report back to us at the November Committee of the Whole meeting, if we can go with that timeline.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure he'd do
local
that.
perspective would be, very helpful. As they've been running this thing for several months.
Yeah,
if I recall, started 6 or 8 months ago. So, but I'd be very interested to hear what their experience has been, and would weigh heavily in terms of decision for us. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor McKechnie, I know you're next. We're actually going to just bring John in just to clarify, and I think that's what we'll do, and he can have a report. And of course, the $10,000 that's asked of us can be part of our 2022 budget discussion. So we have John coming in. Councillor Smith or Councillor McKechnie, I know you're next. Do you want to wait to hear from Smith, from
Sure.
John Watson first? Pardon me.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, go ahead, John, and then Councillor McKechnie.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for the presentation. I have been in contact with my counterpart at Algonquin Highlands, so I've heard some of the preliminary results, and I definitely would incorporate any information I can get from that municipality into our report to Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. Councillor McKechnie, do you want to continue your question?
Yeah. How many hours does it take for this process to finish once it's plugged in?
The process takes between 4 to 8 hours to run a cycle. So typically I'll run mine overnight. When I'm done cooking dinner, I'll put it in and then press the button. When I wake up, I have a soil amendment and a new bucket ready to go.
And how noisy is it?
It's relatively quiet. I keep mine in my basement, but I had it originally on my kitchen countertop and was able to, watch TV without feeling interrupted. So I think it's about 60 decibels, if that means anything to you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for all the questions. Thank you, Christina, for your report. And Mallory, if we could maybe just add to the end of the resolution and further that,
I've written something here.
Would you like to read the whole resolution? And
Yeah.
then I'll look for, thank you.
We'll do it. Yeah. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the presentation from representatives of Food Cycle Science Corporation regarding the food cycler technology and the Impact Canada Food Waste Reduction Challenge. And further, that staff be directed to return to the November Committee of the Whole meeting with a report on the cost and resources needed to participate in this initiative.
Okay, so you've heard that resolution. I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Is that moved by Councillor Smith? Okay, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Kennedy. And I'll ask all in favor. Okay, that's carried. Thank you both. Thanks, John, for popping on. And thank you, Christina, for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. So we have one more delegation, Mr. John Dunlop from Harcourt area to request a change to Harcourt landfill hours. We'll just wait till he comes on. There he is. Hello, Mr. Dunlop, and welcome to Dysart Council. And I'm just going to turn it over to you to state your request. Go ahead and just unmute.
Yes, good morning, Madam Mayor and councillors. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. Just a brief introduction. I'm currently a full-time resident in Harcourt Park, 2209 Sumcott Road. I've been a resident in the Harcourt community since 1976, and over the last 30 years, my experience has been in the financial services industry and corporate and private companies. So I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to look at the proposal to amend the Harcourt landfill hours. That is essentially, I could go through it and read it. I know you're on a tight time schedule.
We do get everything included. Councillors read everything over the weekend and yesterday. So I think they know what it is. Basically, we'll be probably turning this back over to staff to see what capacity and what financial impact there is. We did reduce hours at several other landfills as well to save some cost. And that was what the recommendation was at Harcourt. So I'm not sure if any councillors want to speak to this, or we'll just wait to see a staff report on the financial impact. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to wait for the staff report, but just a clarification, Mr. Dunlop. Does Harcourt Park in itself have an agreement with Highlands East to use their landfills? I'm not sure if there was some accommodation at one time, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. Just in respect to, and it really, I'm speaking on behalf of the, I guess, Harcourt residents as well as Harcourt Parking. So just speaking on behalf of all residents, not just Harcourt Park in itself, but maybe just to step back, I guess, when we did receive the revised hours, I know that was one of my first questions. Why, the reduction in the number of hours? I mean, that puts us down to 10 hours per week, whereas last year we had 15 hours. We all know that through the COVID-19, it's increased household waste. And just listening to the previous two presentations, seems to be a very hot topic. With the influx of people and full-time residents in this community, speaking of Harcourt as well as Harcourt Park, people are storing garbage in garages, outside. We have our own privately maintained roads at our expense. Having only Thursday available during the week to drop off garbage from 9 to 2 seems to be unreasonable. We had additional hours last year. We had 15 hours. We're down to 10 hours per week now. We have more full-time residents here than ever before. We have contractors that are building just to my immediate area. There's 5 new builds going on. These contractors will not have a reasonable, Harcourt is the closest spot to we're the furthest east of the other 4 landfill sites. So in respect to a cost-cutting measure, you're shutting this down throughout the week where contractors could be bringing in a revenue. These contractors could subsidize the cost of the hours. And if we really break it down, you're looking at 27 weeks, which is the 7 months for the winter hours, putting somebody in an additional 5 hours a day at $20 per hour is $100 per day. Throughout the entire season of the winter season is $2,800. That's probably equivalent of 2 taxpayers' revenue sources from this area. The amount of waste, I guess we're limited to 3 bags per household. We have neighbors asking if they could store garbage in other neighbors' garages. And that can't it won't be able to happen in respect to being capped at 3 bags per max and loading up garbage for neighbors. Potentially having garbage outside, contractors are potentially thinking about burning garbage rather than taking it in, and that's obviously not good for the environment. So really, I realize it's a cost-cutting matter, but if you look at Haliburton at 43 hours, Canisius Lake at 14, West Bay at 14, and West Guildford at 43, you've got Harcourt at 10 hours per week. And essentially how I started into this was just through just reaching out and talking to people and then going on social media. I had over 100 people in favor of this within 48 hours, stating the proposal to increase the hours on a weekly basis. So really, we're just asking to add a Tuesday from 9 to 2, in addition to the existing Thursday 9 to 2, as well as the Sunday noon to 5. So it's not myself. It's a group of people, and they've essentially put together emails, and to kind of expedite this, I forwarded the emails onto the councilors and yourself rather than actual petition, because they essentially wanted to reach out individually. So we thought we'd kind of control this in that respect. But anyway, that's where we stand. And I guess I haven't had one person say they're comfortable or they're okay with the existing hours. It's just something that we had 15 hours last year. We have an influx of people now, more so than last year, and yet the hours have been cut.
Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to come to council, and we did receive all those emails from the other people in the area. I know nobody likes it when their services get cut. Like I did mention, they were cut at other landfills as well. So I think we're going to have to turn it over to staff to see the implication of this request so that we could make a more informed decision. Landfill hours, I see you, Councillor Smith. Landfill hours were discussed at length in the spring before the new landfill cards went out. And, we will have to discuss it and see what the staff implication, or see what the, if the staff can bring a report, what the implication would be to that. Councillor Smith, question?
Thank you. Just a comment for Mr. Dunlop. Your hours calculation there assumed it was only one attendant. For various safety reasons, we do not have attendants working alone at any of our landfill sites now. So it's actually twice, what you expressed there in terms of the cost.
Actually, John, I was just in on Sunday. There is only one attendant on site for the winter, not 2, just 1.
John Watson can report on that, because it was his recommendation that for safety reasons we have 2 attendants. And secondly, when John is reporting back, if he could produce the same kind of tally sheets, we had the tally sheets provided to us last winter when we were reviewing this, which showed that the Harcourt site on those Tuesdays during the winter generally had a single-digit count in terms of number of visitors dropping off garbage. So, you may have 100 people that say it would be nice to have it open. We never saw those people showing up and utilizing the service when it was available. And so if we can get those records updated based on, the post-COVID period of this year, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Donaldson, question?
Yeah, I just wanted to note, because I was just in there on Sunday as well, and there was over 100 vehicles that come in on that Sunday, and there is only one person on now for the winter hours. So that would be a question I would also ask John Watson, is that was it to have two people on, was it a car number, or what was his reasoning for putting one attendant on compared to two? What numbers were they that he was going by? Because 100 cars with one person on a Sunday, and that just goes to show you, as Mr. Dunlop said, there's more people around now, and where we've got the least amount of hours.
Okay, thank you. And Mallory, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that John's still in the meeting if we wanted to bring him in, or we for his report. It's just some of these questions we can answer pretty quickly, you know, staffing changes are coming or something like that, but he's still here. If we
I think just in light of the time, we're not going to make a decision on this. So better to have a written report if we can, so we can so he can review Mr. Dunlop's request and what the financial implication would be, and comparisons to when we went through that detailed chart back in the spring before the landfill cards had to go out. So if we could add to the resolution so that he has direction to bring a report back for November Committee of the Whole. Okay. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, just quickly to support what Deputy Mayor Kennedy was saying. I think it's important that we do explore an opportunity with Highlands East. My concern is that we're getting the best use possible out of municipal resources, and and it's a two-way street. If we've got maybe an opportunity for them to use some of our resources, we use theirs. It's a better use of staff and space. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe Mallory, if we can include that, so if you can review any reciprocal arrangements that we have with Highlands East. I believe they have a landfill on Mumford Road or something like that, or something like that. Okay, so are you able to find the words yet again to add to this resolution? Okay, so with that, Mallory, in this case, I will give you a sec if you need it, and then get you to read the resolution. I'll look for mover and seconder.
Sure, I'm going to make a note here that we want John to speak with Highlands East as well. But
yes,
resolution currently reads, be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the delegation from John Dunlop proposing the amendment to the Harcourt landfill winter hours to include Tuesdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and further direct staff to return to November Committee of the Whole with a report on the cost and staffing implications of opening Harcourt landfill for an additional day in the winter. So in terms of the Highlands East, are we looking to add that into this report if we want a shared relationship with them, or is it separate? I don't know that John's going to get an answer within 2 weeks.
That quickly.
Yeah,
no, but
so maybe I'll make a note in the minutes that we'd like John to look into that, but I don't think I'll add it to that resolution if that's okay.
I think that's probably safe. Tamara has her hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I might, that's also part of the purview of the service delivery review at the county. So maybe best to keep that separate.
I think so at this time. Okay, thank you, Mr. Dunlop. So we do have that resolution on the floor, and I'm going to look to mover and seconder if I could for that. Councillor Clark and Councillor Donaldson. Be it resolved. Oh, so the resolution was read, so I'll just look for the vote. All in favor? Okay, and that carries. So Mr. Donaldson, you can always watch our Committee of the Whole meeting on November 10th, is it? The Tuesday? Sorry if I don't have the date. Does anyone correct me? What's the Tuesday? Mallory? Is it the 10th?
The 9th.
The 9th. Okay, thank you. So we'll have Committee of the Whole, and you can review that. You can watch that if you want to follow your request. Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for attending. Okie dokie. We're still good to go. We don't need a break yet, I hope. We'll do recommendations from the Committee of the Whole. And if I could have a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Smith and Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that the recommendations from the October 12th, 2021 meeting of the Dysart et al. Committee of the Whole be adopted by Council. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. And I think we have time to go through administration and take a break after that. So first up is the appointment to the Land Division Committee. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, are you able to and willing to serve on that again?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, that's great, and I'm okay to be the alternate. So could I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Clark, Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that council recommends the appointment of Deputy Mayor Pat Kennedy to the County of Haliburton Land Division Committee for 2022, with Mayor Andrea Roberts appointed as the alternate. All in favor? Okay, great. Carried. We'll send that to the County Planning Department. Next up is the bylaw to establish a fire department. Any questions or comments on that? No. Okay, so mover seconder, please. Councillor Wood Roberts and Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-76, being a bylaw for establishing and regulating the municipality of Dysart et al. Fire Department, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached hereto. All in favor? That is great. We need a fire department. Assuming Ilman Road, we'd already discussed this, so it's just the bylaw coming forward. So I look for a mover seconder. Deputy Mayor Kennedy and Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-77, being a bylaw to assume a portion of Ilman Road into the municipal road system for public use, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto. All in favor? Okay, carried. Next is the fees and charges. And again, this is just coming back from discussion at committee of the whole. So there's just a resolution or the bylaw, pardon me. So look for the mover and the seconder for this. Councillor McKechnie and Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-78, being a bylaw to impose fees and charges, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached hereto. All in favor? Okay, carried. And the next one is a draft vaccination program policy that Tamara, I'm going to turn it over to you to speak to for a little bit, and we'll see where we go.
Okay, you have the draft policy in front of you. Just some background is the health unit has encouraged local municipalities to create a COVID-19 vaccination policy. As such, we've developed a draft policy with the support of the emergency control group that will require employees, council, volunteers, and some contract employees to confirm their vaccination status. Anecdotally, we believe that most of our members are already double vaccinated, but the few exceptions will be required to participate in an education program and rapid testing program at least once weekly. Rapid tests are provided at no cost from the province and administered through our local Chamber of Commerce. And if a rapid test indicates a positive result for COVID, the affected person would then have to go for a PCR follow-up test at the assessment center. That's a very brief summary. Does anyone have any questions?
I'll open it up to the floor for questions. And pardon me, it is a little hard to, like I say, with my eyes to look back and forth, but the policy would become in effect what date?
We put it at 30 days from today if it's passed because we know we're coming into hunting season. And once we identify who it is that requires the education and testing, we have to roll it out and determine the best method for that. So that'll give us adequate time to hopefully get everything in place before the beginning of December and start the testing.
Okay, thank you. And I also thank you for all the hard work on this. It's not easy, and a lot of organizations, not just municipalities, organizations of big and small are going through this. So thank you for all your hard work on that. I will open up to the floor for questions or comments to see if we can pass this policy. Councillor Smith, go ahead.
Thank you. Two questions really. The first one is the rationale for not making vaccinations mandatory.
We're not mandated to make them mandatory, and we, for the most part, aren't working in a vulnerable sector. We feel like we'll get more. As I said, we don't feel like there's very many that aren't, but we feel like we'll get a better rate of compliance through education and encouragement rather than through mandate. If other councillors would like to speak to that, they're welcome.
Probably I'll just join in on that. And then, yeah, I see Councillor Wood Roberts. There are organizations that are passing policies that that are ending in termination. And we felt that there is high risk to that, terminating somebody with cause, going to any kind of, whether it's in union or non-unionized, but any kind of legal battle that might ensue from that. That hasn't been tested. I've been reading about things with organizations like the TTC, that they're anticipating laying off 2,200 people. So in our organization, we did not feel that that would be the ultimate result would be in termination. And that is not, I don't think, the goal of anybody. We're doing very, very well here. We're operating currently without a vaccination policy at all. And again, so we are just trying to have something in place as recommended by the health unit, but termination for non-compliance is very, very risky. And so that's the answer, unless Councillor Wood Roberts wanted to join in before Councillor Smith asks a second question. Does anyone want to join in on that?
I'll just let Councillor Smith continue his question and then I may have some input.
Okay. Councillor Smith, go ahead then.
Well, thank you. And you know, as everyone knows, some other local services, including Alberta and Highlands Health Services, have mandated vaccines. Tamara, you mentioned working with the local health unit. Was it their recommendation that we not make vaccines mandatory in our community?
No, their recommendation was to pass a vaccine policy. They haven't made any strong, like they've definitely encouraged us to pass policies where we can. So that's why we're trying to do this, to be proactive. We're not mandated in this sector to do it.
So they had no recommendation in terms of pro or con relative to mandatory vaccines?
Not that they pushed, they just asked if we were going to be preparing a policy.
Okay. Thank you.
And keep in mind, I believe the wording of the policy is in effect until the province lifts, Tamara, what does it say?
Just gotta flip to the end again. It's
policy term. Yep.
I think we said till the end. The policy term will be in effect while the vaccination passport program is in effect provincially. So that's now looking like could be up to the end of March. This policy should be reviewed on a regular basis to ensure consistency with provincial direction and public safety. So again, that falls along those lines. And the policy shall be reassessed based on emerging evidence or in light of new information. So I expect based on this, we'll be at least have it in place probably till the end of March.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Yeah, just to, I think we're following the direction of the federal government right now. They came out with one thing saying that they wanted everybody vaccinated. However, upon further examination, I just want to quote a couple of things from Toronto Sun, that even though MPs and senators are encouraged or mandated to have double vaccination, the employees are not. They're exempt from the vaccination policy. Some 200,000 of the 300,000 are exempted. People like postal workers who work for a Crown Corporation are exempted. The actual policy being implemented does not require any employee to show proof of vaccination, allows for medical and religious exemptions, and provides testing as an alternative for employees. The official policy tells managers that they must have accommodation measures for unvaccinated employees, which may include mandatory testing, which our draft policy actually incorporates, minimum of once a week. And then subject to escalation of that, should there be more cases as determined by either the health unit or our EOC. So that's maybe how we arrived here.
Okay, thank you for that additional information. Any further questions to Tamara on the policy? If not, we could pass it today. I'll look for a mover and a seconder and we'll call a vote. And as stated, it would be in 30 days effective. So that gives a little bit of time to get all the paperwork in place, etc. So then I'll look for a mover. Is that Deputy Mayor Kennedy and seconded by Councillor Wood Roberts? Be it resolved that Council acknowledge receipt of the draft COVID-19 prevention and vaccination program and further adopt policy number 66, COVID-19 prevention and vaccination program as written. All in favor?
Do we have a recorded vote on that, please?
You certainly can. Mallory?
Switching windows like crazy here. One sec. Okay. Councillor Clark.
I support.
Councillor Donaldson.
Support.
Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Your camera cut off there, Pat.
Yes, in favor.
Perfect. Councillor McKechnie.
Yes, in favor.
Councillor Smith.
Opposed?
Councillor Wood Roberts.
Strongly support this policy. Yes.
Mayor Roberts.
Yes. Okay, so that carries. Okay, thank you. And thanks once again, Tamara. I know that was an enormous amount of work and research to get to that. So the last item here we have is nominations to Good Roads Board of Directors for information. Anything we need to add to this? Just on there. I suppose if the councillor is interested, they follow up in their own manner. They don't need a resolution from Dysart Council. No.
No, just to receive. Yeah.
Just to receive. Just to note, though, our neighboring mayor, Dave Burton, is the chairperson. So congratulations to him on that. So I'll look a mover and seconder for this, please. Councillor Wood Roberts and Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that Council acknowledges receipt of the call for nominations to the 2022-2023 Good Roads Board of Directors. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. So let's do one last thing, and then we'll take a break before we go into planning and land information. So we'll look at, in the finance, there's only one item there, which is a letter to council from the Haliburton Highlands Outdoor Association requesting tax relief. So Barbara, I'm going to ask you if you don't mind adding any information you can to this. And what the implications are to Dysart.
Yes, good morning. So in the letter, they are stating that the annual tax bill for 2021 was $2,892. I'd just like to share with council that is the county portion, the municipal portion, and the education portion. Of that total amount, the municipal portion is $1,279. So, I mean, it's up to council on what type of relief they'd like to give, if any. But we have provided some relief in the past to other organizations as well.
Okay, and the recommendation included for us is that we receive this request and that we discuss it when we are considering doing for consideration our 2022 budget. We don't have to make a decision today, but I think it's important to note what, because in the letter, all that's quoted is the total tax bill, not the portion that is Dysart's. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Barbara, when we're looking at this and with the budget review, can we include some detail with regard to, places like Search, the Legion, what kind of tax relief we're providing for them, whether it be, half or all or whatever, so that we've got something to compare against. Thank you.
I think, yeah, generally whatever other, go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, so if I can quickly respond to Councillor Clark's requests there, the Legion is actually exempt. They became exempt in 2019. So prior to that, we did give some relief there. As far as Search goes, I would have to do some research on that piece there.
Yeah, the Legion is exempt through like mandated by government, same as educational institutions, right? Yes, so that wasn't us. Before that, we gave them relief, but then since there's been higher up government decision to not have those taxed. Sorry, it was how much? 12, what was the Dysart portion? Just so we have that.
The municipal portion is $1,278.98.
Okay. Thank you. So at this point, let's just receive, and we'll keep that in the back of our thoughts as we do when we start in our budget discussions. So I'll move her in a seconder if we can. And Councillor Clark and Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved, the council acknowledges receipt of the letter from Dan Smith on behalf of the Haliburton Highlands Outdoor Association requesting relief from property taxes, and further directs the treasurer to include the request for relief from the municipal portion of the property taxes for consideration in the 2022 budget deliberations. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Maybe we can just acknowledge via letter or email that's if they're expecting an answer today, that we can let them know that they likely won't know till January. Or we might be able to make that decision in a preliminary budget discussion. I'm not sure, but at the outset, it will be January. Is that okay? Everybody, would we like a little break before we head into planning? A little 15-minute recess. So I'd said just after 10:15. So we turn our cameras and our microphones off, and we'll take a little 15-minute recess, and we'll reconvene at 10:30. Thank you. Okay, so we are back in session now, and we will be going through our planning and land information section. So make sure we have our planning staff in with us if we can, please. And we'll go to the first item, which is a joint application to purchase short road allowance on Winona. Let's wait till we get Jeff and Chris. Okay.
Good morning.
Morning, Jeff. Are you taking this one?
Sure. Yeah, we have a fairly straightforward agenda for today. The first item, which is file number RO 2021-14, it's a joint application to purchase the shore road allowance in front of the lands of Fraser. Actually, they own two adjacent properties on Winona Lake. It does not appear there's any development on either of the shore road allowances. So staff request direction from council to approve the application to proceed. Is there
Any questions on this? Yeah, sorry, Jeff. Yeah. No, seeing none, then I'll just ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Clark, and seconded by Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that council approves for processing an application by Ms. Fraser to purchase a portion of the shore road allowance along the shore of Winona Lake in front of her properties, part lot 12, concession 2, lot 69 and 70, plan 482 in the geographic township of Dudley. The lands are declared surplus. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. So they won't merge, right? They'll stay, the two lots, 69 and 70 will stay separate?
Correct. Their intention is to keep them separate. So when we're registering the deeming bylaw, we'll have to ensure that they're registered in a certain way so that they don't. merge.
Yeah. Make sure the strip in front of the shore doesn't become one parcel. Okay, thanks. Okay, the second application, similar?
The second application is also a request to purchase a shore road allowance. File number RO 2021-13 is an application to purchase the shore road allowance in front of the lands of Betts on Kashaga-Wigamog Lake. The applicant wishes to purchase the shore road allowance to do future repairs to a dry boathouse. The boathouse is partially located on the shore road allowance. Based on our review, it's unclear when the boathouse was constructed. We have no record of a building permit and has not been assessed for tax purposes. Staff admit it does look like it's been there for quite a while, but we do, based on the official plan policies, we do recommend a condition that the boathouse be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. We've worded the condition in a way that if the applicants provide proof that the structure's been in that location since July 1977, they will be able to keep it there. So that's, by using the word bring it into compliance, it still gives them the opportunity to prove its legal status. So other than that, staff requests direction with regards to the boathouse and approval to process the application.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Councillor Clark, question first, and then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, to you, Madam Mayor. Jeff, that boathouse looks like it's just barely standing there. And the cottage, I think, was demolished a number of years ago due to being unsafe. I know that piece of property from the roadside quite well, but I didn't even know there was a building down by the water. Usually the need for these things is based on continued use, and the continued use would have been as the storage facility for a boat. If it's not been used in the next number of years, is there any precedent that that there should be a claim for ongoing use of a dry land boathouse?
Thank you, Councillor Clark. That's a great question. I've actually had a couple conversations with the municipal solicitor about this in the past, and as long as they haven't actually intended that use to stop or changed to something else, then that use is deemed to continue to have that legal status. So based on our official plan policies in section 3.2.7, if they can prove that it's been there since prior to July 11th, 1977, I think it meets our policy.
Okay, that makes sense. Councillor Smith, you had a question second?
Yep, thank you. And it's been partially covered there. But does that policy also then means, Jeff, that presumably they're allowed to rebuild that boathouse? Because the one that's there, as you note, is pretty well fallen down.
Correct. They would be able to rebuild that boathouse in that exact same location. It could not get any bigger, it could not get any taller, and it could not get any closer to the lake, but they could repair it.
Okay. Well, I think that keeping that condition in place, at least forcing the owner to demonstrate that it has been there since July of 1977 is the condition that we ought to, the minimum condition we ought to impose. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So with, I think, questions asked, I'll look for then a mover and a seconder if I could. Councillor Clark, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved, the council approves for processing an application by Ms. Betts to purchase a portion of the shore road allowance along the shore of Kashaga-Wigamog Lake in front of her property, part lot 6, concession 7 in the geographic township of Dysart. As per section 3.2.7 of the official plan, the boathouse shall be removed or brought into compliance with zoning bylaw 2005-120. The lands are declared surplus. All in favor? Okay, carried. Next, we go to lands of Jolin and Morris, also purchasing road allowance.
Yes, thank you. And this isn't an application to purchase a shore road allowance, but instead an original road allowance that leads to water. And Mr. and Mrs. Jalen and Morris are making application to purchase the original road allowance that leads to Redstone Lake. They wish to build on their lot in the near future and would like to use the entirety of the space in their planning of their build. The applicants note that the road allowance is over 15 stories high and is a sheer rock cliff. Section 3.2.7, as mentioned, provides direction for council when it comes to closing and conveying of road allowances. The policy states that the municipality will not normally close and convey a road allowance if the road allowance provides suitable access to a lake or river, unless the applicant can demonstrate to council's satisfaction that there is already suitable long-term public access to the water body. Section 3.2.7 further states that the municipality should protect the road allowance for possible future recreation or public service purposes of interest to the municipality. Based on the review of the pictures and the orthophotography, it's unclear whether the topography would prevent this road allowance from being used for future recreation purposes. There's no evidence of a 15-story high cliff. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just want to say that there's no evidence of that. However, regarding suitable long-term public access, there is a public boat launch across the bay on Redstone Lake. So staff are usually of the opinion that it's a good idea to protect road allowances. However, this request appears to meet the required criteria in that section of the official plan. So council has a decision to make. If council chooses to sell the original road allowance, the purchase price will be determined based on an estimate of market value, and half of that road allowance should be offered to the property owner on the other side of the road allowance. Staff request direction from council whether they wish to approve with the processing of this application.
Okay, so I think there might be a few questions on this one. I know we had one last month that we denied, but this might be a different situation. So I'll turn to Councillor Clark first for a question.
Yeah, no, I support staff's recommendation that this should be denied. And yeah, as Jeff has alluded to, we've got very few of these points where we can access the lake. But even if this property cannot be developed, I think it's incumbent on the township to protect the quality of lakes, and our objective is to keep as much of the shoreline natural as possible. To preclude any kind of development or build on the property, it's in the interests of our community for the township to maintain ownership of this and prevent any kind of development on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Was there another question? I'm not sure. Jeff, okay, Councillor Smith, and then I'll ask a question as well.
Great, thank you. You know, as Jeff has pointed out, we have sold some of these road allowances in the past, and you know, despite the provisions of the official plan, and I'm in agreement with much of what Councillor Clark has said, but so that we're not seen as arbitrary, I'm curious, Jeff, as to which of the provisions of the official plan we hang our hat on here in terms of why we're not selling in this case, and we have sold in other cases that, you know, certainly Councillor Clark's argument could apply to any road allowance, and you know, he and council have supported the sale of other road allowances in the past. So why are we saying no to this one? Those 5 conditions that are in the official plan, or 4 rather.
Well, the one I always hang my hat on is for possible future recreational trails. So it's quite possible in the future that could be used to go south towards Coleman Lake Road without having to take perhaps a snowmobile trail out along the county road, down and then back across. It may not be likely, and that's why I kind of mentioned it that way, that this might be an opportunity for council to consider this, given that it does meet a lot of the criteria.
All right, and have we had any expression of interest from the neighboring property on the other side of the road allowance? I noticed from the aerial survey that the cottage on the lot on the other side of the road allowance is quite a long way away. It's like he checked the far corner and preserved, therefore, you know, again from the photograph, a lot of the natural vegetation on that lot, and, you know, admirably so.
We haven't had any interest expressed at this point, but that's typical. If council agrees to process the application or move forward with the sale, we put it on the applicant to contact their neighbor and obtain that interest. And if they do want to join it, then they'll have to determine mutually how they wish to divide that, and then we'll go forward with the appraisal process.
Mayor, I think it's important that we at least have some consistency in terms of our rationale in handling these requests to purchase the road allowance. This is not the shoreline road allowance. Now this is the a side allowance that frankly most lots don't have. Some are fortunate to be in that position. But if we're going to continue to receive and accept a good portion of these and then say no in other cases, I think we need to be very clear in identifying the rationale that distinguishes one situation from another. Otherwise, we appear to simply be arbitrary, and that's not a good place to be. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councillor Smith, and I do agree with you. And we have sold road allowance on Kinesis Lake. Why? Because it wasn't a recreational trail. There is other public access and boat launches there. In this case, I think the stumbling block for me, but I would still be open to finding more information about this. It says the road allowance provides suitable access to a lake or river unless the applicant can demonstrate to council satisfaction that it is already suitable and long-term public access. And I think that there is in this case. The applicant says that it's 15 stories high and sheer rock cliff. I wouldn't mind a site visit from staff or another interpretation. If it isn't a suitable road allowance, then and a recreational trail is not using it, then I think that we maybe should entertain selling this. So I see Tamara and then Mallory. Or
just a note to make sure, could we defer it just to do some more investigation to determine if there's any issues like bell or hydro easements or anything in that area? I think that's something we need to confirm before we go any further with this.
Yeah, from the aerial photography, it doesn't look like it, but that we don't know for certain. And we are only taking their photographs, which I think sometimes you need to be on.
Yeah, it could be underground infrastructure is what we're talking about. So we just want to verify.
Mallory?
I just wanted to make a point to Councillor Smith's point as well. These are currently public lands, so you can make different decisions on different areas of public land. I know what you're saying about being arbitrary, but this is someone asking to purchase public land. So there's no obligation for it to be purchased. It's currently in public ownership. Do you want it to be private ownership? If you do think at some point it could be used for the greater public, then that's a good enough reason. There's not a long list of reasons that need to be made because currently the municipality owns it and you're not obligated to sell your lands. So that's something for everyone to keep in mind too, that there's no, when someone asks, you don't have to give it away because you gave it away over here. That that's apples to oranges. So that's my only point on requests such as this.
And Mallory, I appreciate and understand that, but that we have said yes in a number of cases. I think that we at least need to be able to provide a reason why we would say no in this case. And, beyond that, well, we just think it's differently. The other thing, if there is going to be a site visit, the aerial photograph, it's not entirely clear, but it appears that there's a dock facility on what is the road allowance waterfront, and which is, of course, an interesting aspect of whatever may be going on here.
I just provide caution to council with regards to that, the orthophotography. It's very good to use as a reference, but it is not survey quality. As you can see, if you go a couple property parcel lot lines to the east, it cuts right through that building. So they're not necessarily 100% accurate. We like to provide them, but just so that you have a visual of what the area kind of looks like, but I would not rely on them for survey quality. Through this process, if council does decide to proceed, we will obtain a survey that would either show whether that was in front of the subject lands. And just to elaborate on Tamara's comments, we also circulate Bell and Hydro. So if there was existing infrastructure, they would notify us of that and we would provide them an easement before selling.
So in this case, because there is could be construed that there is suitable access for long-term public access to that water body. I believe there's just a few boat launches on Redstone Lake, but one actually fairly nearby. And if it isn't suitable for opening something up because of its topography, then maybe we should consider. So I would just like some more information before we deny this request personally. I know we denied the request on another lake, but that was because we don't have any open public access on that lake at this point. So I think that this does meet the criteria, at least for some further investigation before we just outright deny. So I don't know, can we defer this, Mallory?
Yeah, it's possible to defer the decision until a site visit was suggested is completed.
Jeff, do you do that in some cases?
I can. We usually send building department staff out because they're out in the area, and they did take some great pictures in this location. However, there was no evidence of a sheer cliff. As per the imagery, you can see that there is topography there. Same with the pictures, but there wasn't necessarily anything saying that it couldn't be used for some sort of trail. But you make very valid points with regards to the location of that other boat launch. Behind this road allowance, it's a private road, so it doesn't have public access to get to the lake. The only reason I could potentially see holding on to it is to prevent people from having to go to the county road if they're trying to go south towards Coleman Lake Road.
So building staff have already been on, so maybe just written comment from them, and maybe this can come back to council, this request. Sorry? Oh, sorry, I heard something. And also show us all the public boat launches on Redstone Lake, blow the map up a little bit bigger and in comparison where they are. And sorry, did you say tar paper or whatever the name of that road is tar paper is municipal road or private road?
It's a privately maintained road.
So I'm even leaning, I mean, you know, we have a privately maintained road and then we're going to have a public access. Anyway, I don't know if other councillors would like some more information before we make a decision on this. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, in that report, can you also include the amount of buildup that's on the lake? What is the percentage of natural shoreline? Thank you.
Sorry, could you repeat that, Councillor Clark? How much natural shoreline on the lake?
Yeah, the report that was done a couple of years ago by Che looked at all the lakes, and they recommended some lakes had below what was necessary to maintain the quality or maintain the health of the lake. So we wanted, so there should be some information around somewhere as the amount of buildup on that lake, how much natural shoreline is there. So can you include that in the report, please?
You know, just for all of council to keep in mind that these are a source of revenue. I know once they're sold, you never get that back. Once that asset's out of your inventory. But that said, some other time, I do know that there was another case where someone wanted to purchase because you have a different side lot line setback when you're building against an original road allowance than you do if you're building against a neighboring property. So it may just be a simple case and of where they want to situate their dwelling is affecting that. So but I do think that if we could get some more information, that would be helpful, and then bring this back to council, I guess, in November. Councillor Smith?
And just to your point about tar paper trail being a private road, that is true. But this road allowance that the municipality owns extends well beyond tar paper. And you know, to Jeff's point, I think it extends all the way down to Coleman Lake Road. So you know, from a public road called Coleman Lake Road, one could, whether by snowmobile or frankly hiking through the bush, could go down to the lake on public property, assuming we maintain the ownership of this. And if we sold it, we'd be giving that that privilege up. it seems to me that, as I said, I was only concerned about this from the point of view of appearing arbitrary. Council has, the wherewithal to address the root cause here, which is the limit on the owners, the applicants here, in terms of where they can construct a building, by changing that exterior lot setback requirement and making it the same as it was if they were next door to another lot, as opposed to our road allowance. And so we shouldn't feel we get boxed into a corner. We've got lots of flexibility, and maybe we need to use this application as the impetus or the catalyst for considering more broadly. Although it's, you like to have the revenue, you say it's nice to get the revenue. The reality is that, whenever we sell one of these pieces of property on the waterfront, it does lead to more development. Sometimes at a cost to the lake health, and it reduces long-term public access. And so we could, make a decision that, hey, we're out of the business of selling these road allowances. Again, that's a fair and reasonable decision for council to make, and there may be lots of good reasons for making it. And so instead of necessarily rushing ahead with a conclusion on this one, maybe we should consider it more broadly in terms of our attitude towards selling road allowances on any waterfront property.
Well, I go back to Mallory's comments. It is a case by case situation. Each one is different and each one has a different circumstance. So I think Jeff has probably enough information there that he can bring it back. This wouldn't come back to, not to committee of the whole, but to council, correct, Mallory? End of November.
Yeah, Jeff, it would depend on Jeff's timing for sure.
Okay. At the next appropriate time. And so the owners will have to wait. We didn't say no, but we'd like more information. Okay, so that's just deferred. We're not going to vote on that one. And next one is a pre-consultation consent proposal for lands of Kuno.
Thank you. That one's mine. So let's start off. It's great to see you back, Deputy Mayor Kennedy. I think this is the first meeting with you, so it's great to see you back. This is for the file D00 SV 2021-008 for Kuno. Although there are no circulation requirements for pre-consultation, staff have circulated to internal municipal departments for comment. To date, comments received was through the building department through discussion with them. A building permit is required for the existing garage overhang addition for the retained lands. A brief outline of the proposal. The landowner for the retained lands known as 1353 Wonderland Road proposes to grant the right-of-way across their property by consent to access the benefiting lands known as 1351 Wonderland Road. No new lots are being created as a result of the consent application. The existing driveway has access off of Wonderland Road and currently services both the retained lands and adjacent benefiting lands owned by the applicant. However, based on the topography and elevation for the benefiting land, and that it's on a sharp curved location on Wonderland Road, there was no safe alternative entrance. Therefore, the request for the consent for the right-of-way across the property. And then just further to the application for the addition for the permit based on the requirements to the building department. Staff did notice a wood burning appliance structure. However, have noted that this does have legal non-compliant status and therefore no further process is required for that structure. It appears to be installed or was constructed in 1995 prior to requirements for these structures to be set back certain distance from the property line. Therefore, in summary, it's staff's opinion that the proposed will be consistent with the municipal official plan and generally conforms with the provisions of the official plan, and that we recommend that council support the general principle of the file D00 SV 2021-008, subject to conditions noted in the report.
Okay, thanks for that report. Chris, yeah, this is all just legalizing the driveway, if you will, to access the other property. It's being used. There's no construction. There's nothing happening here. It's just to legalize the access to the benefiting lot.
That's correct.
So any questions? If not, Councillor Smith?
So good to know that the wood burning appliance is actually legally, but the garage addition is still requiring a building permit, and that would be a condition of this approval. Is that correct?
If council would like to add that as a condition, that is correct. We don't have that as a condition, as it has been noted to the building department, and they would follow up. If it hasn't been completed, they would follow up to ensure that is, but we could add that as a condition if councils would like that as a condition.
I think that, I mean, we often add conditions, and that would be appropriate in this case to ensure that, you know, the building department has no problem collecting the, you know, the application and the fee, which would be double what it otherwise would have been, given that this property owner decided to go ahead and construct something without a building permit.
Yep, so we can certainly do that if that is the wishes of council, and we can add the condition in as well.
That's been proposed by Councillor Smith. Is there anyone else that wants to comment and add that as a condition? And I'm sorry, it's just hard for me to focus there on the reading. So where the garage is on which property?
So it's on the retained property.
And that garage was built without permit.
The garage has a permit. The addition to the garage was built without a permit.
Okay, that's pretty, how big is the addition? It's fairly minor.
When attached to a main structure of the, or accessory structure, which is like the main structure, it requires a permit. So I'm not exactly sure of the exact size, but it requires a permit.
The report noted that you know, there were two issues here. One was the garage addition that was constructed without a building permit, and also the wood burning appliance. Chris has informed us that the wood burning appliance, they've since learned, is legally non-conforming. But you know, the addition to the garage is according to our building department, requires a building permit, and it doesn't. They don't have one.
Okay, that might have just happened through inadvertence, but anyway, so do we want to add that as a condition that they need a building permit for the addition to the garage? Is there anyone that wants to add that?
But no, that's fine. This is all one family. They're related to both these properties, so it's.
Yes, but it's further condition that we would have to add to the resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it should be brought into compliance. Yeah.
Okay. Is everybody else in favor of adding that as a condition? Mallory, are you able to add that to?
Yeah, I think Jeff had a point. I just want him to speak up before I.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is hard for me to, I'm
That's okay.
training to, you know, cover one eye. Go ahead, Jeff. Thank you.
No, I was just going to point out for council that the chief building official has outlined that a building permit is required in this case. So I think adding it as a condition is warranted. It gives the municipality a bit of leverage to ensure this gets done without having to go through the courts and start spending taxpayers' dollars trying to do this. So I think by adding it as a condition is warranted.
Okay, certainly. So Mallory?
So I'm just gonna say, can I add it as a 0.5 and then say registered owner to obtain a building permit for the garage addition on retained property? Is that a good way to word it, or?
Well, the only thing is I think you have to add it as condition 4, and condition 4 becomes condition 5 because it says confirming that conditions 2 through 4 have been met.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna do some.
So for those of you, the resolution is at the front of the application.
Yeah, good point.
Condition 4 was
2
actually
to
the
4.
last one.
Jeff, is the addition on the garage just that overhang where the wood is piled? It's not
That's
enclosed?
correct.
There's no floor in it?
No, that's correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's why I say it was most likely done through inadvertence. Someone wouldn't think I need a permit for just adding a little roof line over. Not a problem, but not a problem to add as a condition. So it is in compliance. I understand that. So what I will do is, I think the discussion is finished. We'll add that as a condition number 4. So Mallory, are you okay with reading the resolution? And I'll look for the mover
Yep.
seconder. Do you mind? Okay, thank you.
Be it resolved that council support the general principle for file number D00SV 2021-008 Lands of Kuno, subject to the following conditions and the comments received through the public review process. 1, for easement purposes for the benefit of Lot 7, Concession 8. 2, registered owner to pay any outstanding taxes. 3, registered owner to pay all administrative fees owed to the municipality of Dysart et al. 4, registered owner to obtain a building permit for the garage addition on the routine property. And 5, prior to the endorsement of the deeds, municipalities to provide a clearance letter from the Haliburton County Land Division Committee confirming that conditions 2 to 4 have been fulfilled.
Thank you so much for that. I'll look for a mover and a seconder if I could. Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. So we've heard the resolution. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. And where are we in our file? Lands of Gonson. Oh my goodness. Been around for a long time.
So this is for file number D00SV 2021-016 Lands of Gonson. Council may have remembered, say earlier this year, that there was a series of consents to create the right-of-way for the Gonson subdivision property. Through that, there was just a small piece, part 6 on registered plan 19R10496, that was missed through that by the applicant. So therefore, we're just, in order to complete the full connection from the subdivision to the Murray's Road, this little sliver needs to be part of that. So that's what they're requesting today. The proposed right-of-way would add the access, would provide the access to the proposed lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 as identified on the attached sketch. It's staff's opinion that the proposed meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and therefore recommend that council support the general principle for file D00SV 2021-016, subject to conditions. And that completes that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris. I'm just curious because the lots are all listed for sale and we're still calling them lands of Gonson. So clearly they're still in that ownership. What happens if right in the middle of all of this process, then the lands sell? Are new owners advised when, like, what if this is in the works and then property's purchased?
Jeff might want to answer that. I'm not a lawyer,
Okay,
so
Jeff?
I don't know what the.
No, neither do I.
And I don't think I can give you a straight answer either. These lots currently aren't separately conveyable until the subdivision process is complete. So any process that's currently going on in the real estate market.
Yeah, you just answered that.
I don't want to comment on it, but
no, that's okay.
I would imagine there's some sort of conditions required attached to those purchases.
That makes sense. In the real estate world, they could list them for sale. I get it. Okay, so I will look for a mover and seconder for this if I could. Deputy Mayor Kennedy and seconded by Councillor Smith. Be resolved that council support the general principle of a proposal for consent file number D00-SV-2021-016, which is the Haliburton County file number H-026-2021 Lands of Gonson, subject to the following conditions and the comments received through the public review process. Number 1 is registered owner to pay any outstanding taxes. Number 2, registered owner to pay all administration fees to Dysart et al. Number 3, registered owners to pay all application fees owed in the amount of $400 to the municipality of Dysart et al. And number 4, prior to the endorsement of the deeds, the property owner must request that the municipality provide a clearance letter to the Haliburton County Land Division Committee confirming that conditions 1 through 3 have been fulfilled. All in favor? Okay, carried. And again, request for the extension to the subdivision.
That's correct.
Same
So
land.
this one is for the lands of Gonson again,
Yeah.
for the subdivision land extension. They're just asking for an additional 1-year extension. They've cited that due to the COVID-19 restrictions, they've encountered some technical issues resulting in the requirement for additional consent process. They just sort of said that it's been difficult to satisfy the draft plan of subdivision conditions through this time, so therefore requesting for the 1-year extension. Staff have reviewed and do not have any additional conditions or comments other than what's been established already for the conditions. Therefore, staff recommend that council support the request to extend the draft plan of subdivision 46T 12001 for 1 additional year, so the registered owner can satisfy outstanding conditions for approval.
Okay, so any concerns with that? Could you imagine if we said no? That would really, yes, I think that would be supported. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that council supports the request to extend the draft plan of subdivision 46T-12001 for 1 additional year to satisfy outstanding conditions for approval. No additional municipal conditions are required as a result of this request. All in favor? Okay, carried. And lastly, we have a request for a minor variance to be made in the name of Dysart. Jeff?
Yes, thank you. This is a bit of a unique request. Mr. and Mrs. Darren are requesting permission to submit a minor variance application for development located on the municipally owned Shore Road Allowance. So in June of 2019, they submitted a minor variance application to construct a garage at the rear of their property. Given that a small corner of the dwelling and deck are located on the municipally owned Shore Road Allowance and a variance for lot coverage was required, they were required to purchase their Shore Road Allowance to proceed. In October of 2020, council passed a bylaw to close and convey the road allowance. That bylaw has since been sent to the municipal solicitor to process. However, it's still not complete. And the municipal solicitor has notified that transaction should be completed in the next couple of weeks. However, Mr. and Mrs. Darren are eager to proceed and are seeking permission from council to proceed with the minor variance application, which includes the development on municipal lands. So if council agrees to the request, staff will ensure that there's a condition on the minor variance or a recommended condition on the minor variance that they complete the Shore Road Allowance purchase. And if council has any questions, I'm do my best to answer them.
Yeah, this is a bit of a timing issue, and I think keeping that condition in to ensure that they must, their minor variance would be on Dysart land, but they pay all fees, etc. for that. So I don't know if there's any further questions to Jeff. Something that's taken a long time, and then, like you said, their applicants are eager to go, and after a year, I would think that they would be. So I will look for mover seconder then for this. Councillor Clark and Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved, the council give Allison and Marco Darren permission to submit minor variance application D13 MV 2019-005 to the Committee of Adjustment for their lands located in lot 13 and 14, concession 4 in the geographic township of Harbour. And further, that the council recognize that the Committee of Adjustment is the approval authority for minor variance applications, and by granting said permission to submit an application, council is not endorsing the variances being requested. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. That ends planning. So thanks very much, Jeff and Chris, for today. We have one section left before we go into our closed session, which is 3 items here. And the first item is the draft minutes from the Committee of the Whole. Any questions or comments on minutes? Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder, if I could. Councillor Wood Roberts, Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the draft minutes from the October 12, 2021 Committee of the Whole as information. All in favor? Carries. Sign and Property Standards Committee from September 23rd. Receiving those minutes, if I could. Mover, Councillor McKechnie. Seconded, Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that Council acknowledges receipt of the draft minutes from the September 23rd, 2021 Sign and Property Standards Committee as information. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. And lastly, draft Personnel and Administration Committee minutes, of which clearly we have to go into close. We're talking about identifiable individuals, so there's not a whole lot to report there. But we need to accept those, if I could. Mover, seconder, Councillor Wood Roberts and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that Council acknowledges receipt of the draft minutes from the October 20th, 2021 Personnel and Administration Committee as information. All in favor? Okay, and that carries. So that concludes our open portion. My suggestion is that we move into close, and just as we're moving into close and the administration have to click and get us into that, take 5 minutes if you need to stretch your legs. But we'll keep going because it's only 11:15. So I will get a mover and a seconder to go into closed. And like I said, is that Councillor Donaldson you're moving? Okay. I'll look up for a seconder. Sorry, Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that Council adjourn its regular meeting at 11:13 a.m. to discuss matters pursuant to Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended pertaining to a proposed disposition of land in the Township of Dysart Industrial Park property. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, land transfer conditions on a property acquisition in the geographic Township of Dysart, and a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization, strategic plan proposal. All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. That is carried. So we're now in closed. And like I said, take 5 minutes and come back to your screens when you can. Thank you. Okay, and we are back in open session, and I do have one resolution, a report from closed session regarding the purchase or the lands, the purchase from Nathan Petrini. So if I could have a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that Council accepts the offer from Nathan Petrini in the amount of $30,000 plus HST to purchase the lands legally known as Part 15, Plan 19R-4878, Part Lot 11, Concession 9, and a portion of Part 9, Plan 19R-2953, Part Lot 12, Concession 9 in the geographic Township of Dysart. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. And that's the only report from closed. Is there any notice of motion today? Councillor Clark.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to, a motion that we have a staff investigate, report back on some issues we're running into with regard to seasonal roads. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had a number of residents contacting us that they're having issues getting private contractors to clear their roads or driveways. Apparently, there's been a big issue with the insurance providers for these people. So we're getting a lot of panicked staff that not only are they worried about being able to get to their properties over the course of the winter on a seasonal road, but they can't even won't even be able to get propane trucks or fire trucks or anything else in terms of protective services. So it's although it's a little bit it's outside of our service requirement, there are some big implications for people within this community. Thank you.
Okay, so just before I go to Deputy Mayor Kennedy, sorry. So what is the specific resolution? What would you be requesting?
Requesting an investigation and report from staff on how we should be addressing resident concerns on access to seasonal roads.
Winter maintenance on seasonal roads.
Yeah.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, did you want to speak to that?
I just wondered if Councillor Clark would entertain the notion of including in that I think where this stems from is the past history of municipality Dysart giving out snowplow grants on seasonal roads, which clouds the issue. I think, is that where, like if it's a seasonal road, just summer maintenance only, I don't think there's any discussion there. It's these ones that have snowplow grants that kind of muddies the water. I don't know if Larry would change that one over or not.
Yes. Okay. Tamara?
So you're talking seasonal, you're talking roads on municipal road allowances then, not just any private road.
Municipal.
That's the question. I'm not sure where the implications of all this goes.
There have been lots of instances in my time here of these kind of requests coming forward. So we could look back and see what's in the past staff reports. I know Minden Hills also looked at different processes around private maintenance of seasonal roads that were on road allowances, and had developed an admin process around that I think required more insurance proof and so forth, but I'm not sure where they stand with that. But we could certainly do, it'd be easier to discuss with the roads director here for sure.
So when, when we do a notice of motion, it's helpful you can always submit it to the clerk ahead of time so that the wording is exactly right. And then you're putting that motion on the floor. So I don't know if Mallory, go ahead.
Well, I have something, but it might not be, so I'll try it.
Yep.
So I resolve that council directs staff to return to committee with a report on the lack of winter maintenance options on seasonal roads located on municipal road allowances. Is that a good way to start?
I don't know if it's lack of, I think it's where residents have private contractors plowing municipal roads. So I don't think it's lack of maintenance. Can you reword it?
Could I suggest we just maybe put it on as a verbal in the next meeting when Rob is there, and you could ask the questions. He may be able to provide some insight without going into a whole reporting process.
I'd have to check with Councillor Smith. He put the notice, or Councillor Clark put the notice of motion. He has every right to put that notice of motion. If it seconds, I just want the wording clarified. And I appreciate what Mallory, it's very hard to type and be listening at the same time. In fact, practically impossible. But I believe the implication, Councillor Clark, so I'll turn back to you because it's your motion. Was it where we have seasonal roads that are not maintained in the winter by municipality of Dysart at all, but are plowed with private contractors? That's the concern.
Yeah.
I thought it was that they couldn't get private contractors though.
Well, that's private. That is the issue, is that private contractors are saying there is a insurance issue, I believe, that has been arising. The private contractors are saying, I don't have, or vice versa. Anyway, so they were refusing to, Joe's plow company says, well, I can't plow. That's actually a Dysart road. In fact, it's better if it's a private road. It's not a problem on private roads. The issue is on a municipally seasonally maintained road where private contractors are doing winter maintenance. They have no nothing on paper, no legal agreement, no proof of insurance, no indemnification, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there's some
Nor do
complexity.
we.
To this that complexity to this we have to understand, because there's going to be a lot of calls by the sounds of
So,
this.
so Councillor Clark, we have one of two things. You can take a second to reword your notice of motion, or we can just give a verbal general and ask if we don't have the exact wording of that, we can, as Tamara said, bring it forward as a notice of motion at a further future meeting.
Yeah, a verbal back from Rob at the committee of the whole would be fine. Yeah. But we have to get it on the radar, because this is not going away.
Tammy, I see your hand, but I just want to check with Tamara in order of process here.
I would just suggest that it go on the next agenda as an agenda item, and Rob will be there, and we'll let him know that to be prepared to answer some questions.
But to get it on as an agenda item, we need notice of motion. So that's what Councillor Clark's trying to do. I just don't think that the wording has been created exactly right.
So be it resolved that council agrees to add an agenda item to the next meeting regarding seasonal road maintenance.
Is that vague enough and yet a notice of motion clear enough? That
on road allowances, on municipal road allowances.
Municipal roads. Yeah. Councillor Donaldson, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it would just be nice to know how many of those we're talking about. Like, are we talking about 2 or 3? Or are we talking about 10 or 20? So if he could add to that, what actually, because whatever decision we make is going to affect all of them. So it'd be kind of nice to know how many we are talking about.
We've got about 8 or 10 on Winona Lake alone, and we've got a couple hundred lakes. So do the math. Yeah.
Okay. So, Mallory, were you able to, through Tamara, through Councillor Clark, are we able to come up with an actual motion?
So it's seasonal municipal roads. Is that how we're wording it? Or just seasonal roads located on municipal road allowances? Either one's fine.
Either one is fine.
Okay, so does this cover it? Be resolved, the council direct staff to return to committee with a report on the issues obtaining winter maintenance on seasonal roads located on municipal road allowances.
Except we just said not report, just an agenda item.
Okay. To place an agenda item.
Except without a report, what's the agenda item?
Just a discussion, to have a discussion at a future meeting. I think that's, people are just looking for answers of how this works right now.
Fair
so
enough.
Rather than tasking Rob with a big research report, just maybe he could start by understanding
seeing what do we
the
want.
activity is. And
okay, and that'll give us all time to contemplate exactly what we're asking, what we're requesting, what the issues are, what the issues are not. Sounds like a big can of worms. So
I have a new resolution. Do you want me to read it the way it is now?
I would like you to read it the way it is now, and then see if Councillor Clark agrees to it, then I will look for a seconder.
Okay, be it resolved that council directs staff to place an agenda item on committee of the whole regarding the issues for obtaining winter maintenance on seasonal roads located on municipal road allowances.
Councillor Clark, does that satisfy your resolution? Okay, and so I will look for a seconder. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, I will call for a vote. Is all in favor? Okay, so that carries and that notice of motion has been filed. So now I need a mover and a seconder to confirm our proceedings today, please. Councillor McKechnie and Councillor Donaldson. Be resolved that bylaw number 2021-79 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held on October 26, 2021, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached here too. All in favor? It's great. And just a motion to adjourn, if I could, please. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that council adjourn its regular meeting held on October 26, 2021 at 12:13 p.m. All in favor? Okay, that's great. We are now adjourned. Take care, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and hopefully next meeting I'll be looking at you like this and not be looking at two different eyes. Anyway, take care. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.